Folks, hope everybody's all right.
Hello, Martin.
I hope you're enjoying the festival.
Funny dangerous.
Welcome.
Yeah, apologies for that, guys. I had to jump off my work laptop and I've jumped on this one, and I used it for the committee meeting at the rugby club, and that is how I'm known at the club for some reason. I'm uncertain as to why. But that was the moniker that I acquired at the rugby club. So apologies for that. It's not the most professional label, but it's the one you got.
I think it's very appropriate, John.
Yeah, I love it.
So I'm just going to hang around for another minute or stuff because lots of people are coming in. Folks, please feel free to say hi or whatever else you want to say in the chat. It's Martin Routledge here. And would everybody mind starting on mute, if that doesn't cause too many problems? I'm just going to give people one more minute because obviously a lot of people are coming in at the moment. Hi, Ahmed. The last session I was just facilitating was a very northern one with lots of people from the Manchester area. So we're going down the country now to the Midlands, aren't we? To the West Midlands. All right, I'm going to kick off if that's all right. So welcome everybody to this session from Community Spirit to Community Power with our lovely friends from Grapevine in Coventry and Warwickshire, Claire and Mel. We might be joined by another colleague at some point, but we shall see. I'm just going to share my screen for a moment and just do some housekeeping stuff. Apologies for everybody that's seen this too many times now. So this is our Community Spirit to Community Power session. And there is Wendy's number, if you know anybody who needs help getting in. And a really important reminder that we're recording all the sessions. I'm using the same jokes about this, so apologies. You know, if you're not supposed to be here, hide. Don't have your video on. Don't do anything you wouldn't want anybody to see either now or for the foreseeable future in a recording. Or say, I suppose. Hope that doesn't shut everybody's conversation down. Stay on mute if you don't mind. For the time that the panel are talking. Turn your video on if you want to, so we can have a look at you. But if you go to the loo or for a snack, switch it off. Gala review or Gala review is best usually. Use the chat, we'll bring people's questions and observations into our conversation with Claire and Mel. And oops, I'm starting your presentation, your pictures there. So. What I'm going to do is just offer a few words of introduction. As many people who are at the festival will know, we're called Social Care Future, and we have a vision that everybody should be able to live in the place they call home with the people and things that they love, doing the things that matter to them in communities where people look out for one another. That's our vision. And you'll notice that vision doesn't mention the word social or care anywhere. Because we think that's something that everybody wants, whether you are somebody who has some support needs that you need facilitating to enable you to live that life or not. And what we're clear about is that in going forward with that vision and trying to work out how to make it real, make it happen, we're going to have to do so much more than what traditional social care does. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really delighted to have invited Claire and Mel today, because I often have conversations with Claire and she said, we don't do social work, we don't do social care. But Grapevine do the things that would make our vision real. And so I and many others have been inspired by the work of Grapevine over many years down in the West Midlands. And having some conversations with Claire a few months ago, she told me that one of the things that you were doing, Claire and Mel, was this ambitious online session, basically to bring communities of Coventry together to work out where they were and where they wanted to go and how they were going to do it. And it struck me that it was both a profound and a practical thing, a fantastic thing to do that's likely to be really necessary if we're going to grow the kind of community power that we will need to deliver our vision. But with the massively practical element of here's how you do it and here's what you do with what you've done. So I'm so pleased to get you here to tell us about it. I'm going to invite you in a moment to tell us a little bit about Grapevine generally and what you do and how you're trying to do it. And then I'll ask you specifically about the online gathering that you facilitated, the kind of why you did it, what you did, how you did it, and what you're going to do next as a result of it. So I think my questions will be quite simple and hopefully, but they will help you to give the answers that you want to give. Folks, as we're having this conversation, I'm going to flick through some images that Claire and Mel have provided to us that just give us a kind of sense and illuminate what they're saying to us. Is that all right, Claire and Mel?
Yeah, that sounds great.
You're up for that, are you? Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you first off to tell us a bit about Grapevine, because there'll be lots of people on the call that don't know anything about it. It's hard to believe, I know, but there will be.
So Grapevine is a charity in Coventry and Warwickshire, and we started life 26 years ago, actually, in October. Our 25th was last year. We started off life as a charity that was about working for and with people with a learning disability. And our vision was exactly the vision that you described for Social Care Future. So what we saw, the evidence was all around us really, that people's lives were not being made better by segregated specialist services. What we needed to do was go ordinary. So our response to what we saw around us, which were quite, at best paternalistic, at worst abusive kind of institutions and services, was to turn towards the ordinary. We thought we needed to help people make friends, uncover an identity that wasn't about disability or a diagnosis, but about who they were, what their dreams were, what they could offer, about their relationships with others. And I suppose about 10 years ago, our realization was that there were lots of other people as well, kind of trapped in the system, for whom that kind of vision and approach would work really well. So since then, I suppose we describe our work as having 3 themes now. We talk about strengthening people, sparking community action, and shifting power, both shifting power inside individuals' lives, but also shifting power between people and the systems that are meant to be serving them. So that is the goal that I'd now use to describe all of the work that we're doing. And we do that with anyone who could benefit. So it might be a disabled person, it might be someone with a chronic or long-term health condition. It might simply be someone experiencing isolation or other kinds of disadvantage or discrimination in our place.
Excellent. Do you want to add anything to that, Mel? From your point, you have to unmute though.
Ooh.
There we go.
Oh, sorry. No, not really. Just, yeah, no, Claire always puts it so well. She knows that I always leave that bit to her.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm going to ask you then to tell us about this amazing online gathering that you pulled together a little while ago. Can you just start off by telling us why you felt the inclination to do it? Why did you do it?
Mel, do you want to go for that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We always seem to be up for a bit of a challenge and putting ourselves to the test. So, you know, why not on July the 4th think about bringing a whole load of people together who might want to talk about their experiences of the pandemic to that date, talk about some of the inequalities that we'd seen, some of the great stuff, the neighbourliness and the connections, and how those conversations could help us to think about whether there was any sort of action that could come from that, whether people wanted to take their ideas forward. And so we said, well, why don't we have a summit? Why don't we bring a whole load of people together from Coventry online? We've never done anything like that before. We'd only recently started using Zoom at the beginning of the first lockdown. And we just thought, well, let's give it a go. Let's see who shows up. Let's see whose voices we can get in the room. And let's really try to understand what the temperature is in Coventry at the moment, you know, how people are feeling and the kind of things that they've seen that they'd like to sort of make more of and carry on with, really.
I mean, I suppose we were thinking that we didn't want to be part of the emergency response, because that's not who we are. It's not that we give help to people deemed to be vulnerable. There were others, and I'm not knocking that. That was a needed space and a needed function, and it was being filled by others in Coventry and Warwickshire. But we thought, well, what we do is we help people to help each other. And how could this moment of the first lockdown moment, unlock more of that, unlock more of what we were trying to create in the city? So in a way, I mean, it was a terrible experience, but we were trying to see how could we put this terrible experience to good use.
Thanks, Claire. I've just noticed that Joe has just joined us, I think. Mark, if you're there, could you spotlight Joe for us?
Hi, Joe.
Welcome, Joe.
Is this Joe here?
Let's have a look.
Hey. Hi, Joe. Can you hear us okay? Oh, you'll have to unmute, mate.
Muted. Yeah, you have to unmute.
Yeah, I think that's what's just happened.
Thanks. Thank you very
Right,
much.
I was going to send everybody a message. I think I might have to close the room and start again.
Gaynor, we can hear you on our call at the moment. Sorry. So this is the problem of running several sessions all at the same time.
Thanks for coming, Joe.
I'm really sorry I'm late, guys. I was struggling to get through the school traffic.
That's all right, Joe. Don't worry. Just relax into it. Claire and I are just relaxing in. So yeah, just you'll be fine, and we'll bring you into the conversation as we go along. All right.
Thanks, Mal. Thank you.
No worries.
All right, brilliant. So so you decided to do this. Seems a bit foolhardy to me, but hey. Anyway, what did you? How did you go about doing it? How many people did you get into a room? Was it like 150 or something like that?
Yeah, it was 155 in the end. So we set ourselves a target of 300. I think we got 250 people registered, and then on the day 155 people turned up. But there was a whole kind of strategy and plan ahead of time to get it to sort of work and to you know, to be a success, because we didn't want just a standalone event. We wanted to create an event that was a sort of kicking off point to more work that would follow. So we needed to design it in such a way that it didn't feel like a one-off. But Mel and the team were really involved in that. So she's got lots to say about how it was planned.
Yeah, so as well, you know, you can't gather local people without having local people in the lead and helping you to plan all of that. And so Joe was one of the people that came to that first summit on the 4th of July, and he's been really involved with us since that moment as well, and before that. So we we thought about what we wanted the session to look like, and you know, it's so hard to, you know, at Grapevine, like most of you, most of our conversations and connections happen across a coffee table or in a room where we can be together. And so the biggest sort of challenge we had first of all was, how do we make it feel okay for people that were coming? How do we help to make it feel like it's as in person or as close to in person as we could possibly get it? So we thought long and hard about what we wanted the session to look like, and that felt really important, that, you know, even in our invite to the session, we explained to people that there would be 15 minutes at the beginning where they could really relax into the session and ask any questions in the chat box. So the design of the session was really important to us, to make sure that it felt accessible, and to make sure that it felt as if people were comfortable enough to take part in the conversations.
I mean, I would say we tried to create an atmosphere. So you know, you want to create a feeling and a sense of openness and friendship and excitement. So we actually worked with a design studio called Deeper, and they specialize in deeper human connection, deeper digital connection. So I mean, there were lots of things that actually are kind of second nature, and they kind of gave those things a label for us and helped us codify stuff that we and all of you would probably instinctively do, but they enabled us to think about, well, what does the digital version of that look like? So we thought about things like, what kind of message, what kind of words and what message are we giving off in the waiting room as people are arriving? You know, we'll say, grab a blanket, grab a cup of tea, grab the cat, whatever it is you need to feel comfy. All these things set the tone of what people are going to experience. We did synchronous activity. So that means doing something daft all at the same time. So we got people drawing on a piece of paper, put a piece of paper on your head, draw something on it, hold it up to the camera. That just creates a bond across a screen like this, like we've got now, this checkerboard of faces. That just creates a bond between all of us, because we've all done the same thing in our own place and we're holding it up. And people are calling out and saying, oh my God, what's that? What have you drawn there? What's that supposed to look like? So it's a bit of humor, it's a bit silly, but it's bonding. And there are many, many apparently small things like that were threaded through the whole event to create that togetherness and that willingness to stay together after the event. But there was lots of stuff, Mel, I was thinking about, you know, planning who was going to come. You had warming up conversations with many of the people that we wanted to come. We wanted to stretch beyond our ordinary networks. I don't know if you want to say anything about that stuff.
Yeah, so we really thought carefully about who we wanted to invite, who we wanted to be there, and then each member of the team took a segment of those people, and it was their responsibility to work them up to coming, really. And that was going to be part of our success measure. So if your remit was 15 people, you know, we would think about, okay, our success might be 10. And from that also, who could we follow up with after the session as well? So as Claire said, there was a lot of strategy that sat behind it, and things like, you know, making ourselves accountable for getting people there, because we knew that local people were going to be coming and sharing their experiences, and we wanted as many people as possible to be able to contribute to that, and also to be able to carry those voices to other places, you know, for us, because we knew that interesting things were going to be said and that they needed a place to go after the summit as well. And we also thought a lot about how the local people, we call them change makers, could be part of the session as well. So not only in the run up to it, thinking about our language and how we made everybody feel comfortable, but like Claire said, that opening message to people, we followed on with 2 local change makers, Charlie and Amber, did an activity to kind of get everybody in the mood for what was going to happen next. And that felt really important as well, to have local people, you know, who'd planned these sessions with us and really at the lead of taking on board what we were trying to do on that day.
So you were building on and further building community spirit in order to grow community power. You had a number of themes for the gathering, didn't you? Do you want to just tell us a bit about those?
So if I just very quickly say, so part of the way of thinking about how do you turn community spirit into community power was the things we wanted people to be having conversations about. We wanted to get people reflecting and talking to each other about, have we all been in the same boat really? I mean, no, of course we haven't. So that we wanted to get them thinking about the unequal experiences of the pandemic. We wanted to get them thinking about interdependence. So the things we care about normally, we care about inequality and restricted lives, and we care about people being interdependent. So the topic therefore was enablingness and how we've all been helping each other and getting people to reflect on and talk about that. And then the final topic was our power to make change. So how far did people realise that they do have the power to act on the things they've identified as wanting to keep going, and you know, and then encourage them in that part of the session to be thinking about, right, let's make some practical actions. What practical actions are we going to take? What is within our power now to do? Yeah.
Okay. So you organised, you had that bunch of questions. What did you do to kind of animate the session so that people came up with ideas and actions?
I'll leave that to Mel.
So after the breakout rooms in which we discussed those questions, we knew that people would hopefully be feeling quite sort of upbeat and thinking about what they wanted to do next. And so we'd created a menu that people could choose from. So from kind of low level participation to quite high level interaction with us. So we talked about people meeting people from the team to have a cup of tea with us, and you know, a one-to-one conversation where we could delve a little bit further into what they'd spoken about, the change that they wanted to see, and how we might be able to help them with developing some of their ideas, or in fact for some people, for them to explore some of the things that they'd seen and heard about on the day and how they might like to get involved with it from that moment going forward as well. They could also, we run a monthly event called Collaboration Station, where we think it's Coventry's only ideas night, where local people from local community come together to share their ideas about what could make a more connected city. So we had people signing up to come to Collaboration Station it's the third Wednesday of every month. And we'd also just started to deliver our Changemaker University. So that is, we just got through sort of cohort 1, and that's a program really where we help people to understand what grassroots leadership looks like, how they can use narrative to call other people to action, how they could form a core group, how they could develop their ideas as well. So starting from a seed of an idea and who they might need to gather around that idea in order to make it happen. So there were, you know, real ways that people could get involved beyond the summit that they could sign up for. And the lowest kind of participation option was to download a poster that we'd had designed by the artist Fokker Wolf. He made a series of 3 posters for us for the summit. Claire's going to get it down. So we realised that people have been putting rainbows in their windows, and so from this summit, what could people be putting in their windows now to say that, yeah, I want to connect for good, I want to connect with other people in my community, you know, to do good things together, and to make a change in our city. So there were real tangible ways for people to get involved. And then once that had happened and the session was over, that was when the real hard work started, because we had to go back through and unpick all the conversations that had happened in the room and pull out the themes. Claire spent a lot of time doing that. We've worked out ways now we can do it better. But as you can see, that Where is the Love, that picture there, that was one that featured in the report.
Although actually that's an advert for the next summit, but we'll come to that. But I just want, one of our principles, by the way, was a balance of voices. So it's really important to get a balance of voices. So I've realised that we haven't asked Jo to join in, but Jo was actually there, weren't you, in July, I think. So could you say a little bit about what it felt like, because you experienced it as, you know, a person coming along. Did we manage it? Did we pull it off in terms of the atmosphere that we were trying to get?
Yeah, I felt so, definitely, because obviously sometimes with all the different Zooms I do, I always, like most, feel anxious beforehand about going on, but felt like you've already mentioned, the thing with drawing the pictures above your head and stuff, it was all like really great icebreakers, I felt, and it felt like straight away your anxieties, any anxieties you had, even with that side, was coming down, and just being able to participate in the breakout rooms as well, and meeting all the other people, and like I say, it was just felt like there was just so much passion in the room, as it were, and no one was judging anybody else. It felt like you were in a safe place. And that's what I've always felt so special about everything I've done through Grapevine. You never feel like you're being judged at all. And I felt the same that day with the summit. And like I said, when I heard there was over 100 people involved that day, it just felt like I'm just part of something so amazing today. And that just made you even more passionate about the stuff we were doing that day, and just whether it be just listening or watching slides, listening to the other people. I really, really enjoyed it. And it's helped me come so far since as well, not just with, thankfully to you guys, being able to be part of Changemaker, and that people listen to my ideas in the breakout rooms, and currently sort of working with a couple of change makers on a few of those ideas through the breakout rooms, to do with little projects that we're hoping we could maybe get off the ground. So, and that's all came from, again, like the initially the work that was done in the summit that day, and the change maker thing afterwards, and just being able to, the way it was all like, it's done so well with the networking side, but I felt it was absolutely brilliant, especially the slides. And even today, I've been jotting stuff down about the slides that's coming up, because it's just all such a useful information that you share with us, and it's just great to be able to be part of it.
And Jo is our cheerleader, and we through Changemaker University, we introduced the change makers to a lady called Edith, who was part of the Barack Obama campaign. He went to visit a community in the south of America, and he said what we learned from that, Jo, was about the power of one voice to change a room. Can you do the little chant that Edith said? Yeah,
it was it's almost become a bit of an anthem, what Mel gets me to do. So it was almost like, we're fired up, and everyone like replied, ready to go.
It was when Obama had a meeting somewhere in the south in a library, and 8 people came, and he felt like he'd travelled for nearly 2 days to get to this venue to meet 8 people. And there was one woman there in her big church hat, and she said, "Fired up, ready to go." And that was the lesson. That sometimes it just needs one person to turn something around.
And I find, Claire, even with the music audio night I'm doing now, 12 out in Simon Green's absence on a Friday night, that's been going on. The New Vibes one on a Friday, every Friday for the members and stuff. And even when I'm doing the music in that, I find I'm getting such a buzz out of feeling like I'm helping not just the members, but through music. Music's been such a passion and help to myself as well on my journey with my health. And I find even on a Friday night, I'll turn to the screen sometimes. I might be setting up a track, and the next thing it's like fired up, ready to go, and it just feel like you want to get everyone buzzing and involved. And like I say, I wouldn't have got all that if it hadn't have been like through all that experience of that I got through CMU and that story. What an amazing story.
Joe, what are those ideas? You said that from CMU you got together with a couple of other people, and now there was a few projects. What are they?
I've been working with at the moment with some ideas, because I had this idea of like summer camp typey situation, and where people with autism or where it might be, we could all get involved in doing something, or mental health, whatever it may be, as it were. And then when we were in the breakout rooms on CMU, it was like William and Michelle was both who have autistic children themselves, both was like really buzzing about this sort of idea that I'd sort of got about this camp type thing. So we was talking about, we need to say this further, but because of the pandemic, obviously it's going to be a lot long further down the line, and how would we actually do that logistically with doing kayaking and different stuff like that. So we come up with an idea of maybe we could do an online club. And at the moment, it's we don't know like if it's a great name, but we was thinking of calling it like People's Legion. And we'd got like designs of hands coming together for connecting, and a woman with a big sledgehammer breaking down a wall that was supposed to be breaking down barriers, and angel, and one of the things that I'd had made was a waterfall, because I remember through my own mental health being in a session and trying to explain that I felt like I was stuck in a valley and there was no way of getting out of this valley, but I thought, and I wished there'd been more steps in the rocks going in this valley that I could help climb out. So in my head, I'd visualised this waterfall, but in a sort of valley, as it were. So the water was sort of the journey, as it were, as it flows, but also like representing hope, I guess. And we found this picture of a woman in like a ravine, like water, looking up as if it was like a rainbow with this waterfall coming down. And it was all just ideas, like for almost like but it's going to be like, the idea is hopefully if we could get this club off the ground, and I know I spoke to a few people through Grapevine that were happy to help, and we wanted to try and incorporate people from collaboration station like creative kindness and different things in the club as well at some point where we could. But it's like going to be a club where people come along and go into different breakout rooms where there'll be different skill things they can do or learn, to begin with online. But also have a room where I said, why can't we have a room where that room's for the actual parents of those people as well? Or partners, because obviously if it's someone with mental health or whatever it might be, people sometimes forget the parents are struggling as well, because they've got to cope and try and make that life better for those people every day, or whether it's someone's partner or whatever. So we could have a room where they could all breakout room where they could all almost have a support network as well. We knew at the moment, we know it's not, we won't have all the answers, so we thought, and we're not professionals, so we thought at least use the club to also to be able to sign people to the right professionals if they needed it, and get professionals involved where we needed to. So it's sort of in the idea stage at the moment, and I've got so much stuff going around in my head. But yeah, everyone's that's involved so passionate, and we also had a little meeting with Gemma as well in last week, I believe. Sorry, Monday. It's because I've had so much going on, and yeah, it's just like we feel so passionate about it and other stuff at the moment, and that's all come from being able to be involved with the summit and CMU and everything, which wouldn't have been able to do if it weren't for you guys.
Oh, well, thank
Brilliant.
I think
Could I just ask,
Alright,
sorry,
go on.
Claire, that's so brilliant, Joe. I'm just looking at the chat, and you know, that what you've done and how you've done it is getting a lot of love, of course. And I think Joe's getting some love here as well. Before we go on to, okay, so what do what happens next, Claire and colleagues? I see a few things in the chats. Mark, you said you'd like to know more about the Changemaker University. Do you want to unmute and specifically ask that question yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've come across it on the Grapevine website, because I've always kept an eye on what you guys do, and I've done some stuff around grassroots leadership myself, working with folk with learning disabilities in the People First movement in Wales. So I'm always interested in how we grow those leaders like Joe, and how we invest and how we get beyond the usual suspects, because that's the big challenge in the third sector. Even it's often the same old faces, whereas the challenge is to get ordinary everyday people into this. So I'm really fascinated by that Changemaker University and how it works, and I'd like to find out more.
I mean, I think Joe won't mind me saying that, you know, when we use the term university, it's obvious it can be a very sort of exclusive word, and it isn't normally for everybody. But our Changemaker University is just that. It is for everyone, and the diversity within the different cohorts that we've had so far has been phenomenal. And I think that's so important, because it's the cultural change that we all want to see in the world. There's not many places where we can bring a group of people together who can really authentically learn from one another through different life experiences. And Changemaker University has really been those unusual suspects, peppered with people also that you might expect to be there as well. And sometimes I think they question who's learning the most from who, and that, you know, the people that join us who have lived experience bring so much of who they are and their experiences to the table, and it helps in so many ways. And it's just to fill you in a little bit about what we do. So it's a 6-week program. We're trying different ways of delivering it. So the second cohort was for 6 weeks, and we were meeting twice a week for 2 hours. So it's quite a commitment. And then every other week, a longer session on a Saturday. And we also would invite people that were graduates from the first cohort of Changemaker University to help deliver the second cohort. And that's really important as well, because they bring the knowledge and the experience of having been part of that first cohort and what they've managed to do since then into the programme, and can talk about it and really bring some of the learning alive, I guess.
And what we haven't said is the content, the curriculum, if you like, is taken from movement building and community organising, and it's our version of that, so made as accessible as possible. But we'll definitely have a chat with you off this session, Mark, if you want to get in touch. It's nice to meet someone who's been on the website. You never normally know who they are. But drop us a line, get in touch, and we'll happily have a slightly more detailed sharing of what it's like. But
I see Jade is clapping at that as well. Jade, it sounds to me like you might want to be part of that discussion as well. Is that right?
Yes, please. I'm a big fan and a big follower of Grapevine, so yeah, I'd be really interested.
But the only briefly, the quick thing I was going to say, the way that taking community spirit and turning it into community power, it couldn't just be that event, even however well planned it was. We needed, standing alongside it, Changemaker University and Collaboration Station, because that's where the capacity that we uncovered at that event could go next and get developed.
Yeah, I guess that's really key, because we've seen a lot of, you know, a lot of people sort of hold and host events, and it can't just be that thing. You've got to have, we call it our ecosystem that sits around and supports, whether it's, so in Coventry now, the way that we look at our ecosystem is on a daily basis, there are these one-to-one conversations happening. So local people having a cup of tea on Zoom or before, you know, in the real world, talking about the change they want to see in the city, and you know, how they could get involved with the Connecting for Good movement and what that could mean for them. And then, as I say, we have our the things that Joe's talking about, the bits of community action that have been sparked. Joe's also been, he talked a little bit about the Friday night audiovisual sessions that he's been running. So these are the things that have come out of people's ideas, and they're happening on a weekly basis. And we also then, obviously, our monthly offering to the city is the Collaboration Station.
When all of that comes together, so it's not just new ideas, it's existing ideas. So all of it can see, everyone's in the room together, like an established idea or a really new idea, or just someone who's got a problem and is looking for a solution. It's all together.
Yeah. And then the other bit of infrastructure that I guess that we've been thinking about putting in place, and what we've already been talking about, is, so we had those things, but then we needed more people. Like, how did we reach those people? How did we know what we were thinking? And that's really why we did that first summit. And we're going to be having another one on the 28th of November as well, which is what we're planning for at the moment.
The idea is to mobilise 3,000 people. So at the beginning of lockdown, we'd mobilised 300, and we were thinking how we go, you know, we need to now digitally mobilise 10 times that number. So hence the, you know, the events that have come along as well and joined the ecosystem.
Thank you. So just to kind of end that little bit, I see in the chat that other people are coming forward and saying they want to be part of the Changemaker University chat. And obviously, this is one of the things that we hope will happen at sessions like this, that as a movement of people, we're sharing our ideas, our ambitions and our approaches, and everybody's really generous with their time and support for each other. So if it is possible for the Grapevine team to carve out a bit of time for those in our movement that are interested, and I'm sure there'll be people not on the call today who would be particularly interested in this, if we could set up some kind of session for people to do that, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, that's fine. That'd be great. As long as it's not imminently.
After the 28th of November.
Yeah, I don't think anybody will want to do anything imminently, will they? I'm having a week off after this, I tell you.
I was just going to add, I know Mel's touched on it, that it's for everybody, and I really do believe that, because anyone that is on today that is interested in the Changemaker Uni, because I was terrified, because as Mel said, I'd never been to a college or a university in my life or anything like that. I struggled in school because of health problems and different things. And so when I was first approached about doing a Changemaker University, I thought, university, I'm never going to be any good at that. But it is, when you're on there, you're not judged, you're made so welcome that all the stuff that's in your head, it just helps bring it out so much, whether it be in the breakout rooms or when you're watching the slides, and everybody is made so welcome. So I think if you are interested, definitely get in touch with Claire and Mel, because it's just such an amazing experience to be part of. And like Mel said, it is for everybody. You're not excluded if you haven't been to college or uni in the past, because like I say, I've never done anything like that before. I felt like I shone when I was in my little box on Changemaker on the screen, as it were.
Brilliant. Thanks, Joe. It's so great to hear that kind of described in that kind of way, because it isn't just what you do, it's how you do it, isn't it? And that sounds like the group here have come up with something that works for people, so that's brilliant. Can I ask then, can you take us to the next stage then, folks? What next?
Oh, another one.
Actually, two more. There's two more.
Oh God, yeah, I wasn't going to mention the other one. I thought they'll all think we've done.
Okay, so I'll quickly say next Tuesday, we're flipping the coin and we're going to do something similar, but with the public sector. So we're going to, just as we said, right, there's been all this community spirit in lockdown Mark 1. Let's turn it into community power. We're saying in lockdown Mark 1, there was a lot of collaboration with communities, between councils and communities, and things kind of eased up and the bureaucratic straitjackets were off, the rules were loosened, and we had different sorts of relationships, and there was a bit of sharing of the challenge going on. How do we turn that into business as usual in terms of how the public sector works with communities and community groups? So for us, we've got another one next Tuesday that is about that discussion.
How are you going to go about that one then, Claire? Are you going to use exactly the same methods, or is it going to be different?
Yeah, I mean, designed in the same way, but it's just for the public sector. So we're trying to create a space where they're not going to have pops. No one's going to be poking them from the voluntary sector. It's just going to be, let's talk to ourselves about, let's share stories that gave us a lot of optimism and hope during the first lockdown. Because I saw it was inspired by an NHS manager whose eyes lit up when she said, you know what, the best thing about the lockdown was there was this community group called the Blood Bikers, and they deliver blood from their volunteers who love, they love their motorbikes, and they take blood from one hospital to another. And she worked at Warwick Hospital, and she said they offered to deliver chemo drugs to people's homes. And we got it sorted in 4 weeks. The information governance woman just said, well, we can't be a blocker to this. We'll just have to figure out how we share the patients. We'll get consent from the patients. We'll share the home addresses. This group of volunteers didn't do DBS checks. That would kill it off normally. No, that wasn't a problem. Well, they're not actually going into people's homes, so let's not worry about the DBS checks. It all kind of went like a dream. And she was saying, now we feel like we're just getting back to normal, and the straitjackets are going back on, and it's not like it was. So the idea was to have 3 big conversations. The first is about, tell us your stories that were really optimistic and hopeful about that, stories like that, blood bike stories. Tell us what does it involve if you share leadership if the public sector is going to share leadership with the community sector into the future, what would it involve? And then lastly, we want to get the public sector to identify some challenges beyond the pandemic that they are willing to work on in a similar way with community. And then again, there are follow-up touch points. There's collaboration station a week later, So yeah, we're approaching it in a similar way.
So I suspect that there'll be a lot of people interested in that experience as well, Claire, because obviously I'm sure folks on the session now, and certainly lots of people that we are talking to, are kind of telling a similar story of how different things happened in the early stages of the pandemic, that some rules were just ignored, some relationships were changed, behaviours were different, with beneficial impacts and no disasters. That's a common story, isn't it? It's not the only story. There's also a story of nobody changed anything and it was awful. But there is also a story of, yes, round here, people said you can use your direct payments on whatever you want. We're not going to check, or yes, we're not going to do DBS checks in that situation because it's ridiculous, or whatever. Yeah. And those made a difference. Yeah. But the kind of worry about getting back to previous unhelpful business as usual is strong.
Exactly.
And it's very, very common. So I think people will have their eyes on your experience of doing that, and how you encourage people to do it and support people to do it, because
Well,
many of us here are public servants, and
yeah,
it's not
happy
easy.
to report back on that at some
Yeah.
point as well. I'll let you know how it went. But and then 2 weeks after that, there's another summit, which is Mel's.
Yeah, actually, someone's just written about straight jackets.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. It's just another. You've just got to keep trying, haven't you?
But Claire's email
Keep
wording was
talking.
brilliant. It was get out of your bureaucratic straight jackets, jump off Teams.
Yeah, we basically said lay down the lanyard, sign out of Teams, check into Zoom. I mean, of course, nobody wears lanyards anymore. Have you noticed? We're all seeing each other's kitchens and bedrooms and back rooms, and nobody's got their ID on, and they're all in loungewear. There's something about that experience as well that has changed relationships bizarrely. Anyway, tell everyone about Where Is the Love, Mel.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, there will be music at that summit, by the way, and so the next summit, the Where Is the Love, is a song title as well, and I think what we've noticed is that some of that love has died off, and people warned us about that at the first summit. They were like, at the moment, we know what to do, we know how to organise. People felt that they could organise and get things up and running, but it's been such a long stretch that it feels like some of that's died off a bit, and that honeymoon period is gone. There's lots of stuff in the media about conspiracy theories, and all over social media especially. We're not clapping for the NHS anymore. There's no rainbows in windows. But we want to understand whether there is still willing and still people out there who really want to unlock the power of love in our communities, and their willingness to act and share their sort of experiences and thoughts about how we could move things forward. And we did loads of stuff from that first summit, but we know that what we're saying to people is that's not enough. We still want to do more, and we need to do more, because love, hope and optimism need a strategic push right now. And so we're inviting people to come and join us on the 28th of November. This one is even more strategically planned than the first one, because one of the critiques that we gave ourselves was, where were people in positional power? Where were our allies in positional power? Because they were few and far between at that first summit. So we've really targeted people in positional power that we want to sit alongside us and to listen to what local people are saying about what they're experiencing at the moment. We're going to have 3 conversations. The first is to think about, to get people to think about what it's like for them at the moment, to talk about what they're seeing in their communities. The second question is around, if we have lost the love, how do we pull some of that back? How can we get back some of that kindness and cohesion? And then the third question is, what are we going to do with all of this information? Like, where do we want these voices to go? Who do we need to carry them to? And I think, we will have a responsibility about where we take those voices going forward. And again, in our ecosystem, there is a vision for where that can happen. We're working with City of Culture. We have a project called Reform the Norm, and we see that is a place for voices to be taken forward, that can basically speak to services, and just get us all kind of talking about the things that could be possible. And we also critiqued ourselves from the last one, saying that, there was definitely lots of representation from across the city. Nearly every ward was represented, apart from 3. So we're specifically targeting those wards now to make sure that we have people from those communities there. We also knew that there wasn't enough representation from BAME communities. So we are strategically targeting people that we know who represent people from BAME communities, so that we can bring them to the table as well. And also we know that businesses are really, really important in the loneliness an isolation agenda. So local businesses were not at the first one. So again, we have one of the team members is really working to think about local businesses and how we get them there, because we see them, and did even more so before we went into lockdown, as part of the solution, you know, to loneliness and isolation, and that they could play a big role. How could they be more community facing, you know? And so we'd started some work on that prior to lockdown, but unfortunately we haven't been able to carry that on at the moment, but we definitely want to get them around the table. So yeah.
Wow. And then you'll have a long lie down and maybe a drink.
Till the new year. No, we've got loads of stuff happening. We decided that we were putting too much pressure on ourselves to do a Changemaker University in November and December, so we're postponing that till January now. But we are going to have Changemaker University sessions on local radio, led by some of the local changemakers. So it's not that it's, you know, some of that isn't going to happen, but everything we do we have to be thinking, like, what is the yield that we want from this? And we ask ourselves 3 questions. The first one is, how will this make us more powerful? And that is as a movement. The second one is, who showed up? So who was there, who was listening, who could we speak to going forward? And the third one is, who can be developed? And so I think that third and final question is a lovely one. And it's also very relevant to Joe being here with us today, because any opportunity for local people to be developed and to think about their leadership is really important to us. And we get lots of praise about, you know, being a great organisation, great people in our work. And one of the things that we said to the first cohort of changemakers was, you know, don't leave it at that. What does your leadership look like? Take from us the things that you like about our leadership and take it out into the world and help other people think about their own leadership. And that's exactly what people like Joe are doing now.
Brilliant. Thanks so much. We're running out of time, unfortunately. I just wanted to say a couple of things and then give anybody else who wants to say anything or ask anything just a last opportunity. Just in terms of what we're doing with this, I mentioned that we've got an inquiry group of people with lived experience of social care who are leading the thinking about what our vision looks like in practice and how we make it happen. And then we'll be working with other people about strategies and effective campaigns to make it happen. But obviously we're bringing people together in sessions like this to build strength, build collective strength through both inspiration and practical methodology. And it feels to me that Claire, Mel and Joe, you've given us that in spades today, so thanks so much for it. And it's clear from the chat how much people have appreciated it. But we are recording this, we are taking the chat. We'll work with you if you want us to get the idea of a Changemaker University session out there to the wider movement. And we'll take the ideas that have been generated in the session into our thinking about how our movement progresses. So thanks so much again from me. And any last comments or questions for anybody who's here? Was that you, Mark? Mark, did you put your hand up? No. Right. Okay. I think I can.
Fired up, ready to go.
We're fired. Shall we do that?
Yeah. Go on, Joe.
You ready?
No, you lead us.
You ready, guys?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Fired
up!
Ready to
go!
Go, Joe.
Thanks so much, everybody. See you at another session soon, hopefully.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.